Take your eyes off your phone for just 1 minute and look around carefully. Everyone is staring at a screen, aren't they? Notice that I didn't ask you where you are. On a bus, in the city, at an entertainment center. I simply asked you to look away from your phone for a moment and observe your surroundings. Because I know for a fact that no matter where you are, the people around you are just as absorbed in their phones as you are. Now ask yourself this. Since this morning, what issue have you thought about deeply and seriously? What problem have you analyzed with reason and logic? Most likely, the answer is very few, and this is no coincidence. As a society, we are gradually losing our ability to think. Everything is becoming simpler and more superficial, and our minds are growing increasingly lazy. In 2018, a study on the Flynn effect conducted by Norwegian researchers revealed results that were both fascinating and deeply alarming. Since 1975, each new generation has been growing up with lower IQ scores than the previous one. Yes, you heard that correctly. We are becoming relatively less intelligent. IQ levels are declining by approximately 7 points every decade. Problems that our parents and grandparents could solve with ease are no longer as easily solved by us today. To understand this more clearly, let's look at a study conducted on London taxi drivers. Researchers discovered that as these drivers memorized thousands of city streets, a specific part of their brain, the hippocampus, physically increased in size. But what happened after GPS became widespread? That ability gradually disappeared. Today, we are experiencing the same process, but on a much larger scale and in every country. If you want to understand why we seem to be getting less intelligent day by day, and why we struggle to think more deeply and clearly, like the video and subscribe to the channel, let's explore this problem together and look for ways out. A 2015 study by Microsoft showed that the average human attention span has dropped from 12 seconds to just 8 seconds. A goldfish has an attention span of 9 seconds. Think about that. We've become worse than a goldfish. You're reading an article and your phone rings. When you come back, you've already forgotten what you were reading. You open another tab, then Instagram, then YouTube. Your brain keeps switching constantly, never going deep. A study from the University of California shows that after being distracted from a task, it takes about 23 minutes to return to a state of full concentration. Now, do the math. How many times a day do we drift away from what we're doing? Sean Parker, one of the first presidents of Facebook, once openly admitted, "We deliberately exploited a vulnerability in human psychology." Social media platforms are fighting over your time and attention. Every like, every notification delivers a tiny hit of dopamine to your brain, and your brain loves it. The result? Addiction. Before you even realize it, you find yourself reaching for your phone again. Cal Newport explains this in his book Deep Work. We are now living in an era dominated by shallow thinking. Everyone knows a little about everything, but no one knows anything deeply. Videos last 15 seconds. Reels are 30 seconds. Texts are just a few sentences long. Over time, our brains adapt to this rhythm. Short, fragmented, and shallow thinking becomes the norm. An experiment conducted at Stanford University made this very clear. The same information was given to two groups. One read it from a book, the other from a screen. Those who read from a book retained 34% more information and were able to analyze it more deeply. Reading on a screen is fast, but the information doesn't properly pass through the brain's filter. Today, almost everyone lives life on autopilot. GPS thinks the route for you. Spell check corrects your mistakes. Calculators do the math. Google finds the answer to any question in seconds. And what do? Almost nothing. And the brain follows a simple rule. Skills that aren't used gradually weaken. A generation ago, people memorized dozens of phone numbers. Today, many of us can't even remember the numbers of our own family members. People used to visualize maps of the city in their heads and navigate with ease. Now, even getting home without GPS has become difficult. The more we hand over thinking to technology, the more the brain says, "I have no work," and withdraws. Imagine this. Every day, roughly 2.5 quintillion bytes of data are created worldwide. That's about 90 million books per day. Does all this information make us smarter? Unfortunately, no. If anything, it's the opposite. Nobel Prize winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman explains in Thinking Fast and Slow that our brain operates in two modes. System 1, fast, automatic, and emotional. System 2, slow, deliberate, and analytical. Modern life keeps us almost constantly in System 1. We make quick decisions, react instantly, and act on emotion. System 2, however, weakens and becomes passive when it's not exercised. Columbia University's famous choice paralysis study makes this clear. When people were offered 6 types of jam, 30% made a purchase. But when the selection increased to 24, only 3% bought anything. Too many choices don't give freedom. They tire the brain, confuse it, and freeze it into inaction. We often say, "I'm multitasking." But the truth is, the human brain was never built for multitasking. Neuroimaging studies at the University of Michigan show that we cannot perform 2 complex tasks at the same time. What we do is rapidly switch our attention from one task to another, and every such switch comes at a cost to the brain. Productivity can drop by as much as 40%. Think about your typical workday for a moment. You're writing a report, an email comes in, you reply. A Slack message pops up. The phone rings. Then you go back to the report. The day ends, but nothing is fully completed or done correctly. Research from the Cleveland Clinic shows that people working in this mode can experience a temporary IQ drop of up to 10 points. That's even stronger than the effect of some substances. In other words, multitasking doesn't make you smarter. It makes you more scattered. According to UNESCO, the average American reads fewer than 4 books per year. About a quarter of people don't read a single book in a year. Even in countries once known for a strong reading culture, these numbers are dropping rapidly. Nicholas Carr points out a crucial issue in The Shallows. The internet has changed the way we read. We no longer read text quietly, sequentially, and attentively. We just skim. We look at headlines, pick up 1 or 2 sentences, and move on. The brain adapts. It forms new, shallow neural connections and gradually weakens the old pathways used for deep reading. In other words, our ability to read is quietly being reprogrammed. A 2018 study at MIT revealed a deeply troubling fact. False news spreads on Twitter 6 times faster than real news. Why? Because people no longer verify. They don't analyze. They don't think. Sharing is easier. Reading the headline is enough. Checking the facts is exhausting. The Dunning-Kruger effect has reached its peak in this era. People with little knowledge consider themselves experts. Watching a YouTube video is seen as equivalent to years of research by a scientist. The phrase, "I did my own research," has almost become a new belief system. According to the World Health Organization, children aged 2 to 5 spend an average of 3 hours a day in front of screens. For teenagers, that number rises to 7 to 9 hours. In 2019, after studying 4,500 children, Canadian researchers found that those who spent more than 2 hours a day on screens scored 4 to 5% lower on cognitive tests. And the most alarming part? This effect is cumulative. Every year things get slightly worse. Now let's consider education. What did education mean in the past? Deep thinking, asking questions, and learning with understanding. Today, education is increasingly moving to screens, and the consequences are becoming visible. Finland has long been recognized for having one of the world's strongest education systems. Yet recent PISA test results show a noticeable decline. Interestingly, this drop doesn't align with a decline in teacher quality, but rather with the accelerated digitalization of classrooms. Tablet and computer-based lessons may look practical and modern, but in terms of real learning, they are weaker. OECD research confirms this. As computer use in schools increases, academic performance decreases. Why? Because learning isn't just acquiring information, it's thinking. Writing by hand engages more of the brain. Working with books maintains focus. Face-to-face discussions turn a student from a passive listener into an active thinker. Screens speed up the process, but they kill depth. A child can click and get an answer, but they don't truly understand. They click, but they don't think. And this problem doesn't stop at school. It continues in the workplace. According to McKinsey, the modern office worker spends roughly 28% of their workday reading and responding to emails. Microsoft's research is even more striking. Employees check email an average of 57 times per day. Each check takes about a minute, but the real loss isn't time, it's attention. Jobs that require deep thinking are shrinking. In their place are routine, automatic, mechanical tasks. People work, but they don't think. They appear active, but mentally they are passive. Now, let me ask you this. When was the last time you were completely in silence? No phone, no video, no headphones. Just you and quiet. A study conducted at the University of Finland shows that just 2 hours of silence a day helps the brain to refresh itself. Especially in the hippocampus, the center for memory and learning, new cells form more quickly. But here's the problem. We avoid silence. We reach for our phones while standing in line. We play videos while eating. Screens are still with us when we go to bed. The brain works continuously, but it doesn't think. It just reacts. It never rests, never processes information, never puts what we've learned in its place. Knowledge doesn't consolidate, it simply piles up. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is where the brain breathes. The good news? This is not permanent. We are not passive victims. The brain is plastic. It can change. It can repair itself. This is called neuroplasticity, and it's real. If you want, create screen-free zones for yourself. The bedroom, the dining table, the first 2 hours of your morning. Make these areas off-limits for screens. Research shows that screen-free mornings can boost productivity by 67%. The way your day begins shapes the way your brain works. In addition, read a physical book for at least 30 minutes a day. Keep your phone in another room. Don't allow interruptions. According to a study by the University of Sussex, just 6 minutes of reading reduces stress levels by 68%. This effect is stronger than listening to music or going for a walk. Moreover, activities like Sudoku, chess, or learning a new language, whatever it is, create new neural connections in the brain and reduce the risk of Alzheimer's. The brain is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Harvard University research shows that people who meditate for just 27 minutes a day over 8 weeks experience an increase in gray matter. Attention improves. Memory strengthens. Calmness begins from within. Also, make at least 1 day a week completely offline. Go into nature. Have face-to-face conversations. Write by hand. Put your phone aside. Remember, no one has ever died because they lost their phone. Yes, we are living in a challenging era. Technology was supposed to make us smarter, but too often it makes us shallower. Social media was meant to bring people together, but instead it drives us apart. The abundance of information was supposed to bring wisdom, yet most of the time it only creates confusion. But here's an important truth. You still own your brain. Every day, whether you realize it or not, you are making choices. To be a passive consumer or an active thinker. To be a mechanism reacting to a screen or a conscious mind. To go with the flow of the crowd or to choose your own path. Throughout history, thinking people have never disappeared. Even in the darkest, most difficult times, they thought. They created, they invented, they discovered. Today is no different. The only difference is that now there is more fighting for our attention than ever before. And perhaps the first step is very simple. Put the phone down. Stay in silence for a moment and begin, truly begin, to think again. The question is no longer, will the world change? No, the question is, will you change? And the answer lies within your own mind.